Hi, very good afternoon to you. It's Dean from maverickstar Observatory. I have got something absolutely explosive to show you in this video. But, and it's a but guys, we have to get our shit together, because right now all these people that are putting the wool over our eyes, putting the hoodwinks on us, are laughing so much because they know the general public can't even get together and fix things. And so, as long as we carry on going along like this, nothing's going to change. And things, if you think things are bad now with what they get away with, what we're doing, we're just giving them the green light to carry on. And I'm going to explain exactly what I'm talking about. There's been over 10 years of research dedicated to this channel here and the website for all of the right reasons. You might be listening to this on the bus, on the train, in your kitchen, at your friend's house, or wherever it is, but we're always here for you to listen to. And I think you'll agree that what we've got is credible information and facts that clearly show something is completely wrong about our existence right now and what we're being told. And we can do this all day long. You know what? I'm one of the few people that can talk about this subject without having written it down first, because I'm well rehearsed in the knowledge of pole shift, grand solar minimum, and the returning of a glacial period, because I've invested years in researching it. And I bring you the critical facts, just like I'm going to bring you the critical facts in a few moments time, and this will blow you away. And this is exactly what we're talking about. How much they are relying on people being dumbed down. And it's not your fault. You go out to work, you do what you've got to do to put the food on the table for you and your loved ones, and you don't have the time to afford it to yourselves to go and dig for the research and the data and the facts. And that's why you come to a channel like this, because we take the time out to do that. Yesterday we had 5,200 views. You can see it there. By the time I put this video on later on, I mean we're at 6 o'clock in the morning here in the UK, and by the time I put that on, it'd probably be about 3,000 views. But the point is this: only one of you yesterday chipped in a couple of bucks, and I'll mention her because you know what, Rachel, you are one in 5,200 at this very moment. And with them odds, I would absolutely go to the shop later on and buy yourself a lottery ticket. Shame on the rest of you guys. You know what? Absolute shame. I keep saying this every single day, and I hate having to mention it. Why is it that we're at this point now where we have to keep doing this? In 6 or so days, we're going to relay the latest magnetic North Pole position for you guys. You can't get that anywhere else. That information is gold. Refined, pure gold. You can't get that information anywhere else in this world, and the organisations just ain't simply willing to give it you. In 6 days' time, we're going to give you that. I can't believe it. Could you believe it if you was doing this? 5,200 people, and out of them, one person, Rachel, on her own, is the only person that supports this. Is this information totally irrelevant to people? Because sooner or later, you're going to realise how important this information is, because right now I'm guessing that the majority of those 5,200 people haven't had something come knocking on their front door. And it will. It's just luck. You're in the casino right now, pulling that arm on the one-armed bandit, and it's not coming up jackpot. But I guarantee you one thing: you cannot avoid what is coming. It is absolutely on course, and its sheer mass and inertia is so big that I can put money on it. I'm prepared to take 100 to 1 odds on it. It's going to affect you, because I know it will affect you. You cannot avoid what is coming. We need to do better. No wonder why they're getting away with what they are. It's because people clearly are allowing it. They have no opposition at this very moment in time. They are being completely unaffected by anyone. There is no influential body that is taking them on and challenging them against their lies. And of course, they're going to continue to get away with it. If no one's going to stop them, then what do you think? They're going to carry on doing it. And they're doing it to us already, guys. Have a look at your expenses for the month and compare them with 12 months ago. They've already taken money out your pockets. You very likely don't have the time to do the research yourself. We're doing it for you. Requires a little bit of help. We need to get our shit together, guys, and work together on this. Otherwise, we're wasting our time. One person out of 5,200 people was a shock. Okay, there will be a link at the end of the video. I'm sure something will be different at the end of this video. I'm hoping that it will anyhow. Let's see. Let's get on with what I said was so important. It would be worth your time watching. Okay, I want to bring your attention to the temperature line, which is the red line that just goes up and down, up and down, up and down, and at the right hand side where it stops at 0 at the bottom of the chart. Now, I'm not patronising you here, but if I give a 4-year-old a red crayon and said to them, continue the pattern where it stops, they are going to draw the line down, and then they're going to draw the line back up, and it's a zigzag pattern, isn't it? And even a 4-year-old can see what's going to happen next. That's the point here, and I'm not trying to patronise you, but this is exactly what the mainstream organisations have done. They have patronised you because they don't expect you to think about what comes next. Because you can see that we have interglacial periods and glacial periods. You can see that glacial periods last around 90,000 out of the 100,000 year cycle, the Milankovitch cycle. Look it up on Google. We're not making nothing up here. NASA are even aware of it, but they're not connecting the dots for you so you see a clearer picture. Because if you did, you wouldn't put up with any of this nonsense which is going on right now. And we're going to go over to NASA. I'm going to show you just how they patronise you guys. So be angry with them today. Not me, because I've asked for a bit of support. Be angry with them. Be angry with mainstream media, mainstream organisations like the ESA, NASA, NOAA. Be angry at your politicians. Be angry at those thugs, criminals at the United Nations and the European Union. Be angry at them, but don't be angry at me. You know what? I'm on your team. I want you to support me today. Stick your finger up to these guys today and get behind me, because I'll show you exactly how they patronise you. Let's go over to NASA and show you. So you can see whose website we're on. Obviously, down in the left hand corner gives you the clue. Global climate change. vital signs of the planet, and this is being produced by none other than NASA. And we're on their global ice viewer, and we're going to select the Arctic region so we can have a look at their chart. Now we can see that the chart starts at 1975 and ends obviously in the year that we're talking about right now, 2023. But you can see the line going all the way down, can't you? And that looks like we've lost a shitload of ice all over our planet, doesn't it? Over the Arctic Circle, should I say. But they're not showing you the truth. They're patronising you. And there's some extras that needed to be added to this chart to point out exactly the true information, because that's what's not being told at the moment. Now, remember, I've said to you many times before that over the last 10 years, year in, year out, since 2012, there has been a rebound of ice, and not one of these mainstream organisations or the media have told you about it, because if they did, you wouldn't be interested in CO2 causing global warming now, would you? If you knew that the ice was rebounding already on our planet, and that we was in fact returning back into a glacial period, well, there would be no need to do anything at all, would there? Especially if, like I said at the beginning, if we give the kid the red crayon, he can continue on that chart drawing what happens next. We know what's going to happen next. We're going to go back into a glacial period for 90,000 years, and then we are going to emerge out of that glacial period just like we did 12,000 years ago, and things will look like they do, not too similar at this very point now. So let's add what NASA didn't add on this chart and make it very clear to you guys right now. So here's the chart with the information that I've added, and on the bottom of the time scale I've added the dates 2012 to 2023, and on the right hand scale I've added extra 6 million square kilometres since 2012. This is how they patronise you. And again, if you look at this chart, this is another Michael Mann chart. This is cherry picked data from 1975, because it shows, from 1975 a nice declining of Arctic ice, which is exactly what you'd expect coming back out of a glacial period. And we're going to go and have a look at that chart in just a few moments. I want this chart to be in your mind right now, so that you can see exactly how they patronised you by not drawing out the specific trend that was important. Because you can see 6,000 extra kilometres squared of ice over the Arctic alone has rebounded since 2012. That's 11 years. So for the last 11 years we've had ice rebounding, and that should be sending cold shivers right down your back right now. Because I know even 10, 11 years isn't a long time, but this is the first time in at least, going back to 1975, we have seen something change directions. And there is no reason why it shouldn't do in any case, because we should expect that to be the case, especially when we are already most likely 2,000 years going back into a glacial cycle, a cycle where the northern and southern hemispheres are mostly covered in ice. The permafrost goes down at least 100 centimetres or 1 metre, which means, as we have been watching for the last 15 years, arable cropping land going offline because the temperature is not suitable for those crops. Exactly the same thing that happened to the Vikings on Greenland when they had to pack up their show and leave because there was no more grass for their animals to forage on. They abandoned Greenland. And for the same reasons they abandoned Greenland, it's going to be the same reason why modern agriculture is not going to be able to produce the crops at the levels that they've been accustomed to, because our planet is naturally going back into a cycle where it doesn't favour crops at northern and such southern latitudes as what we have been accustomed to. This is a short space of time in the Milankovitch cycle, the 100,000 year cycle, which we have enjoyed, and it is over. Get that in your heads. It is over. Let's go back to the chart. So hopefully you will see something very clearly this time. And here we are back at the chart. And you can see bottom right hand side 0. That's the date where we are right now. And you can see what happens next. It's as clear as daylight, but pay attention to the black line that runs across the entire chart and goes to 0 degrees Celsius. And just think about what happens to water at 0 degrees Celsius. Again, we could ask a child that question and they would tell us exactly what happens to water. It freezes. It shuts down the agricultural food basket over the northern and southern hemispheres. They told us it was global warming and they was 180 degrees away from the truth. They lied to us. And that means they do not care what happens to us. Hopefully the penny has dropped and you realise right now why I've been telling you that the city is the last place you want to be, with all the other millions of people in the large cities, when electricity doesn't get in there, when food doesn't get in there, and the logistics breaks down. Because this anomaly that we're merging back into, this natural phenomena that happens every 100,000 years, is back here, right now, at this very moment in time. And it's very slow. It moves along probably at the same rate as a melting glacier, a couple of centimetres a year, maybe 12 inches a year. But slowly but surely it is moving, and we are merging back into a glacial period on this planet. And we have no preparations set aside for this. No government has set aside anything for any one of you. And should we expect anything from them? Haven't they demonstrated how well they look after us? How much returns we get back for all the taxpayers' dollars we give them? We get 0. You are right now a very rare person. If you're listening to this video, you're a very rare person, because you've been given information which 98% or more of the world's population, those 8 billion people, are not informed about. So if ever at a later date you meet your creator with tears in your eyes and say, why the hell didn't you help us? He'll very likely turn around and say, well, you listened to Gene, didn't you? Don't blame anyone else but yourselves. If you fail to act, you will fail to succeed. There are things you can do about it, and we need to start talking about those at some point. But I think that right now we need to drive the momentum in gathering awareness of this. Just before I go, I want to wrap up on just going back to NASA's website and show you a few other things. But I just want to say before I do, is that it's perfectly natural when you have 12,000 years above 0 degrees on this chart for ice water to melt. And if you're worried about the Himalayas melting and running out of water, well, I doubt whether that will be the case if now we are starting to see rebounding ice. You know, that what should be happening, if not now, but at a later date, is a rebound of even the Himalaya glaciers, as well as all over the other world, around the world. And I just want to show you, right now, having you saw this, you know what happens above 0 degrees, you know what happens below 0 degrees with regards to water becoming solid, or water becoming ice, or liquid water becoming ice, vice versa, doesn't matter. Main point is, you know where you are on the cycle, which is right now returning back into the glacial period. You know what happens to water when that happens. So now let's go and have a look at the so-called melting glaciers around the world on NASA's website, because they didn't tell you about the Milankovitch cycle. They didn't tell you that this was perfectly natural at this point in time for these things to be melting. They just said, they're melting, we're going to run out of them. Remember Al Gore in 2014? We're going to lose the polar bears, they're going to become extinct, kids are never going to see what ice is, and they're never going to experience snow. Right. Let's go and have a quick look before we wrap the video up. So at the bottom they're saying we've got a 12.6% decline since 1979. You know, that cherry pick date that shows nicely the drop off. But let's face it, that is perfectly normal during an interglacial period to have ice melt. As we know, when we look at the other chart, we see that when we pass the 0 degrees mark, things start to freeze. When we go above it, you know, they melt, don't they? Water melts above 0 degrees. Simple science. But they're not mentioning that at all. They're not even mentioning the Milankovitch cycle. They're just saying since 1979, you know, or 75, we've seen this happen. Okay, let's have a look then at the glaciers around the world. 400 billion tonnes approximately total glaciers lost per year since 1994. That's perfectly natural during an interglacial period. As we know now, when water goes above 0 degrees that is frozen, it will melt. So if you're in an interglacial period out of the 100,000 year cycle, and that interglacial period lasts 12,000 years, well, 12,000 years exposed to temperatures above 0 degrees is going to, guess what, melt water. But don't worry about it, because we go back into the the glacial period, which lasts 90,000 years, and it replenishes that glaciers. Let's have a look at another part around the world. So Greenland and Iceland. You know what, the Vikings had to pack up and leave during the Viking warm period. At the end of that period, they had to leave, pack up shop, because there was no more green grass for their animals to flourish on, and the permafrost had got that far in the ground that even the crops couldn't survive, leaving them exposed to only one method of survival, and that was fish and what they could get out to sea if they could break a hole in the ice. But there you go. It is perfectly natural in Greenland during an interglacial period for the water to melt, even 494 billion metric tons. It's not a problem. And then we'll go over to Antarctica. 127 billion metric tons approximate ice loss per year. Exactly what you would expect in an interglacial period. When the temperature goes above 0, ice will melt. When temperature goes below 0, which is what we are now seeing for the last 11 years, it freezes and replenishes those glaciers all around the world. But they don't want to show you this, because they have discovered a great way of using taxpayers' money to filter through projects that inevitably end up back in their own pockets. So don't be angry with me. I'm here trying to help you. I shouldn't have to ask for support. People should genuinely want to help what we're trying to do here, because this is a very sad day for humanity. So there's a link down there if you want to help. Don't leave people like Rachel to push the cart on her own. I know it requires an effort to fill out the form, but it's a small effort. So what I usually do, guys, you take care of your loved ones. As always, bye for now.